Hi, my name is Ryan Southwick, author of the Z-Tech Chronicles, and today for Halloween I'm going to be reading one of the creepier chapters from Angels in the Mist, which is the first book in the series. Chapter 57, Hunger. Fading light in their tiny prison heralded evening's approach. Although they had been captive for less than 24 hours, it felt like a year since Anne had been able to stretch her legs. Thump, 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 thump. The pulse Anne heard wasn't her own. It beat in concert with the throbbing veins in Doris's neck. Doris peered at her through swollen eyelids. The welts on her face had gone from bright red to dark purple. Anne turned away in shame. I should have kept my damn mouth shut. William had been enraged after Anne's little speech and gave them both a sound beating. But, unlike her poor Doris, Anne had barely felt it. The cold inside of her had spread to every inch of her body over the last few hours, leaving her shivering and numb. Thump, 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 thump. Her stomach rumbled. Twice their jailers had brought water, but not a scrap of food. Anne was so hungry she would have eaten anything. Dog food, rotten vegetables. Thump, 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 thump. The beating rhythm called, drawing her eyes back to Doris's pulsing veins. Her mouth watered at the sight. Thoughts came unbidden of sinking her teeth into her friend's neck, drinking deeply to satisfy. Anne shook her head and squeezed her eyes closed. Oh, God, no, this can't be happening. But she couldn't shut out the sound of Doris's heartbeat, sweet music that somehow promised to sate her hunger. William's presence flared in her mind. He was pleased, and he was coming. Panic filled her when the door opened. William entered and shot her a smug look. Alessandro stood with his arms crossed, blocking the only exit. William removed her gag and untied her from the chair. Anne scrambled to the opposite side of the room and huddled in the corner. He pointed at Doris, cruelty in his eyes. Feed. You're fucking crazy, Anne said, hugging her knees to keep her violent shivering under control. Feed, he said again, but this time she felt it in her mind as well. His command flared her hunger into a blazing primal need that consumed all other thoughts. Anne rose on shaking legs and stumbled toward the only food source in the room. Doris shrieked from behind her gag, shaking her head wildly. The horror on her friend's face cut through Anne's ravenous instincts. This is Doris, she thought desperately. Doris! That she had to remind herself the person tied to the chair wasn't Emile, but her best friend in the world, terrified her more than any nightmare ever could. Anne fell to her knees with an anguished wail and pressed her head to the floor. No, she cried, pounding her fists on the concrete. I won't do it. Not to my Doris. I won't. I won't. I won't. Doris grunted in pain, and a delicious smell filled the air. Anne recognized it instantly. Blood. The thought filled her with revulsion and excitement. Doris's blood. A single red drop splashed to the ground before her. It took every ounce of her will to keep from lapping it up like a starving dog. Her whole body tensed, a predator ready to pounce. Do it, William said, eyes wide with anticipation. No, Anne said through clenched teeth. Her vision tunneled to the red splotch on the floor. The smell was more intoxicating than anything restaurant Gary Danko could offer. She panted with the effort to hold her ground. Take her! Spittle flew from William's bared lips. She's not your friend, she's food. You stare at that pitiful drop like it's your last meal, but there's so much more waiting inside those veins. Doris's heartbeat was thunder in her ears. Anne reluctantly looked up, salivating at a trickle of blood that ran down Doris's arm. It was more than just beautiful. It was crimson salvation, the only substance in the world that could satisfy the gnawing ache in her gut. She wanted it, needed that delicious liquid like she had never needed anything before. Anne lurched to catch the precious drop before it hit the floor. William flashed a fanged smile and yanked Doris by the hair, exposing her neck and the throbbing vessels beneath. Anne peeled her lips in a feral snarl. She slunk forward on all fours, watching her prey carefully. Hunger consumed her, and she would not allow her prey to escape. "Feast now," her sire said. "Follow your instincts." He pulled a knife and cut the bonds holding her prey in place. It tried to run. Anne pounced, pinning it beneath her, and bit deep into its neck. The coppery elixir that filled her mouth made her eyes roll back in ecstasy. She held her struggling prey firmly and drank in big gulps. In the back of her mind, the last vestiges of her humanity cried in horror, while Anne drained the lifeblood from her best friend. If you'd like to know what happens next, Angels in the Mist is available from all your favorite retailers, including Amazon.com. Have a happy Halloween.